Hey guys, here's my Week 17 NFL preview. The last week of games, obviously 13 of them, as I said in the previous blog, do matter for playoffs. The other three are kind of just who cares games. But again, there are scheduling things for next year. Obviously, teams are looking forward to next year, trying out some new players. So the games do matter on some levels. Coaches playing for their jobs, Rex and Tom Coughlin and such. So I tried to decide which way I wanted to go through the games, and I'm just going to run through them as they're scheduled here on ESPN. The Panthers Falcons. I think if Atlanta was going to win a game, it was San Fran the other day. Now they come back on a short week, coming back home. They've got absolutely nothing to play for. The Panthers are kind of try to prove a statement, and as a 6.5 point favorite, I like Carolina to definitely win by a touchdown or more, even though it is in Atlanta. The next game is the Ravens at the Bengals. I actually end up having the Ravens getting beat here. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to hold Cincinnati to within. I guess I have it as 6.5 here written down. So that game I kind of took as a toss-up. It'll be right at that 6.5, but I definitely think Cincy's the winner. They're 7-0 at home this year, so I'll take Cincinnati minus 6.5. It's tough to lay that many points against a good Baltimore team, but they're 2-5 on the road, and they've had their struggles, and I think they might be ready actually to self-destruct. The next game is the Texans-Titans. Another game that really doesn't have any meaning for anybody. Tennessee's a 6.5 point favorite, home to Houston. I think Houston looking for a new coach. I think Bill Bryan actually will end up being the coach there, and he's probably not a bad selection. But Tennessee, I don't think they're that horrible, and I don't think Houston is really going to be that ready. That being said, Tennessee's 2-5 at home. Houston now, Matt Schaub gets back. I know they don't have a running back, but I think they keep it close enough to keep this within 6.5, so I'll take Houston plus 6.5. The next game is Jacksonville at the Colts. The Colts are such a Jekyll and Hyde team that they played so well against the Chiefs, but they looked so horrible against teams like the Rams and the Texans, and these teams that they should have manhandled. I think Indy's finally getting it figured out a little bit, and they'll want to end off the season on a good note. So I think they'll win, and they'll cover the 11.5, because I think it'll end up being 38-20 or something like that. So I'll take the Colts. The Jets at the Dolphins. The Jets are 1-6 on the road. Dolphins are 4-3 at home, but they looked awful against Buffalo. I think this is another team that's going to self-destruct just because they haven't really been there. Their offensive line's had some breakdowns. They've been sacked a whole lot. They're heavy favorites at home. They're 6.5 point favorites, but I think the Jets cover for sure. So I'll take the Jets plus 6.5. But I think the Jets win this game outright. Playing for Rex, they looked really good last week against Cleveland. And I think the Dolphins get beat. Just because I don't think they're going to be ready to play for a playoff spot, because I don't think they're ready. The next one is Minnesota-Detroit. Again, this is a game that has no meaning for either of these teams, except it's the last game at the Metrodome. The Vikings are 3.5 point favorites, and I think Detroit wins the game outright. No AP. Gerhardt's still, I'm not sure if Gerhardt's actually playing, but he's still playing injured if he is. And even though Calvin may not be fully healthy, you're going to have Stafford. You're going to have him probably having a great game in the Dome, just because I think he has something to prove. So I take the Lions to win that game and take the 3.5 points. The Redskins at the Giants. The Giants are 3.5 point favorites, and I think they absolutely massacre the Redskins. The Redskins are just dysfunctional. They hung around against Dallas, and then they just, but they're going to have even more problems this week because I think the Giants want to play for Coughlin. I think they like Coughlin, and I think Eli's due to have a couple of good games. And the Redskins, I don't think they can play two good games back to back, even though Kirk Cousins kind of sucked last week. The Giants win this game by more than 3.5. The Browns at the Steelers. The Browns they went into New York and didn't play that well. Pittsburgh's been on a great roll. Roethlisberger's been a killer over the last 10 weeks. After starting off on such a bad run, the Steelers are going to finish 8-8, I think. They're 6.5 point favorites right now. I will take Pittsburgh. They will cover. They will win this game by 13 or something. And I think actually that the Steelers are going to get very close to the playoff game. We'll talk about that after I talk about the Chiefs game. I'm going to save the Packers-Bears, though I think you guys all know what I'm going to say. The Broncos-Raiders. The Raiders are horrible. The Broncos, I think this is going to be Peyton Manning throwing for the yards record for a while, and then we'll see what happens with the game. But even without Welker, I think Moreno's going to run all over the Raiders. And they're going back to Pryor, so that could keep this game close. And I think this is a good over. But the Broncos win this game, again, covering the 11.5. The Bills at the Pats. Not sure why this is a 3:30 start, but the Pats, they're 7-0 at home. They're not losing. They're 8.5-point favorites, I believe, and they'll win by more than that. So I will take the Patriots over the Bills. Tampa at the Saints. Again, the Saints are undefeated at home. They look like a different team. Tampa Bay, everybody's saying, oh, Tampa's not that bad, but Tampa really is that bad. They need some serious help, even though their front seven's okay. And Levante David was a huge snuff in the Pro Bowl. You're going to get the Saints winning by more than 11.5. Wow, there's a whole bunch of big favorites this week. So one of these games that I'm saying is going to be one of those games that's going to be 27-20 and the stupid long dog covers. The 49ers Cardinals, I think the 49ers actually win this game. As much as the Cardinals have played so well this year, they're a team that, it's going to be tough. That if Palmer has any sort of bad game, the Niners are going to capitalize. The Niners had their scare. I think they play really well this week. They go into Arizona. They're 5-2 on the road. The Cardinals, again, this is a team that's kind of young. They're missing a corner in Honey Badger, I guess is the best way. Tyrann Mathieu. And the Cardinals are a team that nobody really expected them to get this far, but I don't think they can put up any points against that 49ers defense. And I think the 49ers hold on for that game. The Rams Seahawks. I think the Seahawks, this is an absolute proving a point game. They're 12.5-point favorites as I have it written down, and I think they win by 20 or 25 because I think they're going to be absolutely angry. I think Carroll's going to have them riled up. The Rams don't travel that well. I think they've hit kind of the end of their ability. They've got a lot of injuries. Even though their front seven might be able to stop Lynch, I don't think they'll stop Wilson. And so I think Seattle throws the ball all over the field tomorrow and probably wins by 3 touchdowns. And that leaves us with the Chargers, Chiefs, Eagles, Cowboys, and the Packers, Bears game. I think the Chargers will not cover. They're 9.5-point favorites. The Chiefs really, even though they're playing their second stringers, I still think you're going to see some Alex Smith. You're still going to see a little bit of Charles probably, and I think that the Chiefs can hold this game close because I think San Diego's going to want to possess the ball. I think Kansas City will want to possess the ball. And their defense actually is kind of a plug-and-play team. And as bad as they were, they're not going to want to get beat by the Chargers 2 weeks in a row. And especially when this comes down, the Chargers have a chance to win, in my mind, to make the playoffs. I'm going to take the Chiefs to cover 9.5. And I'm going to say the 6-1 road Chiefs are going to beat the Chargers, which is going to put the Steelers in the playoffs, which is a ridiculous statement. Call me an idiot, but it's like a less than 8% chance or whatever it is. But I think the Chiefs can get this done. Just because even though they're playing their secondary starters, the Chargers are one of those teams that shows up against the big teams, but then they're only 4-3 at home. You get games where Rivers isn't great. You get Matthews that if the Chiefs defense shuts down Matthews, all of a sudden you're getting Rivers throwing the ball all over the field, and the Chiefs are just going to hold on to the football. So they cover 9.5 for sure. The game will be a close one. The Packers-Bears game, Green Bay obviously went to becoming a 3.5-point favorite in Chicago. The Bears played good at home. I think that coming off the Eagles loss, that was an absolute embarrassment. They can play better, but it's Cutler. He's 1-8 against the Packers. You get Rodgers coming back. If the Bears can knock Rodgers down a couple of times early, maybe they can get a point where their defense can play well. I think Briggs will be better second game back. He'll be a little bit more in speed. But I don't think the Packers can stop the Bears. You're going to get Forte for 100 yards. You're going to get Jeffrey and Marshall. If Cutler plays half decent, they can hang around in this football game, and maybe the home thing comes into a factor, and they are a home dog, and that's enough for me. The Bears cover because I think this will be a close game. So if it's 27-24, I'll take the Bears to cover the 3.5, and you know that I'm going to be cheering for the Bears to win. That leaves the 8:30 NBC game. Eagles at the Cowboys. The Eagles are 5-2 on the road. The Cowboys 5-2 at home. Obviously, you're going to get Kyle Orton starting. Kyle Orton's not actually that bad. As much as a backup he is, he's different than normal. He's got a much bigger arm. If the Eagles don't get pressure, and the Cowboys' offensive line is not horrible. Travis Frederick's a bit of a bum, but Tyrone Smith and that is a lot better offensive line than it has been in years past. And if the Eagles don't get a pass rush, I think Orton can throw the ball way downfield, even more than Romo can. And you're going to have Dez, you're going to have Witten, you're going to have Terrence Williams, you're going to have guys like that trying to step up. And then they can feed Murray a little bit. Also, this is Foles' first real big pressure game on the road in prime time. Even though he did it last week, that game didn't mean anything to them. So I think Foles gets a little tight here. If the Cowboys can shut down Shady McCoy and make Foles throw the ball, they have a shot to win this game. Philly by 7.5 is too much. I will take the Cowboys plus the 7.5 points, and I will take the Cowboys at home to beat the Eagles in probably what's going to be the most ridiculous comment I make all year. Even though Jerry Jones is crazy, even though Jason Garrett isn't as much of a coach as just a player with a glorified hat on his head, I think the Cowboys come through with this just because they've already beaten the Eagles once. I think they can take away Shady McCoy. I know their defense is 31st in the league. I know they can't stop anybody recently, and Sean Lee's not playing. Their corners aren't that bad. If they ever could just have one big game, Kyle Orton hangs around in them, and I think they can. If they just stop the pass rush, they can win this football game. So I'm going to take the Cowboys, and I know that the Eagles are going to win by 40, but that's my pick there. So that leaves me with just me projecting that your playoff seeds will be Seattle, Carolina, Chicago, Dallas, San Fran, New Orleans. And then on the other side, it will be Denver, New England, Denver, New England, Cincy, Indy, KC, Pittsburgh. And I think that the Pittsburgh-Indy game is a bit of a trap game coming up in the second round if it ever gets to there. But we'll obviously talk about that next week. As I said in my Turf Paradise blog, we'll talk about Laurel on Tuesday. I'm also going to have some sort of recap, top 10, highlight, some sort of video before the New Year's up, or before the New Year's here. Not sure what yet. I'll come up with an idea other than that. Have a good rest of your weekend. Enjoy the games tomorrow, and have a good night, everybody. Thanks for joining me.